One Rhyme at a Time, Unpacking the Meaning and the Muse with the Poetic Diva is podcast programming that reminds us of the connection between poetry, mental health, and emotional wellness. This program has been brought to you by Rhyme and Chat Interactive Poetry Organization with financial and technical support from Lyndhurst Foundation, Arts Build, Woodfield Media Group, Direct Connection Media, Dave Media, and our Chattanooga local NPR station, WUTC 88.1 FM. So, whether you're a poetry enthusiast or simply someone seeking inspiration and understanding, join us as we unravel the threads of creativity and introspection, one rhyme at a time. Welcome to the conversation. So welcome to One Rhyme at a Time, Unpacking the Meaning and the Muse podcast, where poetry meets mental wellness, right here in the heart of Chattanooga, Tennessee. I am your host, the Poetic Diva, and I am thrilled to embark on this poetic healing journey with you. In this episode, we are being visited by a poet and a mental health advocate, and we will talk about Reconciling Expectations from the perspective of Black fathers. We are joined today by poet Arsenio Sorrell, also known as Deep Thought the Lyricist. Arsenio Sorrell is an artist, actor, and healthcare professional residing in Wisconsin, known on his social media as Deep Thought the Lyricist. Arsenio has a popular following for his work. He considers himself a lyrical connoisseur, which is probably the reason his writing is so strong. He is the two-time Floetry Poetry Sensual Slam champion, the Purple Poetry Slam finalist, an Improv Poetry 24-hour Prompt Slam finalist, and a member of the Poetry Club. Arsenio has also been featured on platforms virtually and performs for in-person events in several states across the United States. We are honored to have Arsenio Sorrell, poetically known as Deep Thought the Lyricist, with us today. Give him a round of applause. We thank you so much for being with us today. So there is a poem that Deep Thought the Lyricist is going to be sharing with us. It is entitled Superman.
Expectations trouble me. Because it's a pre-created thesis, they expect me to pick up and complete with puzzle pieces, so I'm always picture perfect. They feast on my imperfections because they are imperfect. It's easy to be deceived by your purpose if you only see what you want to. As a result, you block other people's view, and it's hard to see through to what I'm supposed to do. I tried to oppose the blues, but sometimes the song is so much sweeter. Melody is much more on rhythm than my heartbeat is. I want you to check to make sure that I have a pulse. See, I'm human too. But it doesn't seem when they get their first impression in order, and if it's positive, they expect you to get out the boat and walk on water. Being around a child frequently doesn't make a man a perfect father. Be precautious with your judgments. Not saying that I'm a bad person or father, just feels like I have more to prove. People staking claims in my name as best dad, but my kids are still young. We ain't had much we have had to go through, so your compliments are best suited if they say starting off good as a dad. But these problems go past me being a parent. They stretch past the borders of professionalism. They plague every talent I possess, so if I don't perform well or have slip-ups, I'm looked down upon. They never see the stress that fills my face because once upon a taste, we were all the same flavor. I mean, we all started at the bottom level, some may be more privileged than others, so it's hard to keep focus when the objective seems hopeless. I hope less would come my way, but I see scattered storms on the radar. I keep my head up because it's hard to see anything good coming your way if you're only gazing at the ground. I can only be Superman sometimes. but mostly I'm Peter Parker. I mean, I keep getting mixed. So Kent Clark or Clark Kent, anybody that's opposite of trouble starter only promotes partials of my whole. This is me, a human being, and unfortunately, my emotions can sometimes get in the way, so it's tough not to walk all over them, but they are there. So I only ask that you take consideration and step over there if you're not going to care for them.
So Arsenio, first we want to thank you for being here and for traveling all the way from Madison, Wisconsin to be in our presence so much. We thank you so much for being here. So this particular poem, Superman, there's a lot of layers to it. There's a lot of things going on in this particular poem. Mm-hmm. So what exactly was it that inspired the poem? What was it? What was the thing that happened that got you to the point to where you actually sat down and put pen to paper?
I think it was kind of a compilation of things. So this used to happen to me a lot when my daughter, she'll be 14 this year, but when she was little, and I would push her around in the stroller and people would see me out in public or in the mall and they'd be like, oh my God, you're such a good dad. And I'm like, because I'm with my child in general, or is there more to this? And like, you don't know me or my kid. You've never seen us interact with each other. Like, you don't know what I'm capable of or what's going on in this relationship to make that judgment. But I think that is also kind of a psychological thing with just dads and being around their children anyway. You know, so I was like, I want to dig deeper into that. And then also the aspect that a lot of people don't necessarily think about when they see people who are parents are they have to take care of themselves as an individual as well. And there's so much more to add on top of just raising a child, like your mental health, for instance. Any mental health issues you have before you have a child, they don't just magically go away because the kid pops up.
That is very true.
It doesn't mean that you don't love them and you're not happy to be around that child or happy in general. It's just, these are things we struggled with. We all hit a point in our life where we are constantly doing things and making decisions like for survival. We're in survival mode. And it's difficult to come out of that just because a kid's there, because they're not there every waking moment of your life. Like they got to sleep or they got to go to school or you got to go to work. And so you have to spend that time with self. And so I was like, maybe I can give people like an idea of what that may look like.
And sometimes those underlying issues, not only are they still there, mm-hmm. but sometimes they manifest even bigger than before.
Yeah.
Once a child is introduced to the situation.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a very, very true statement. Dig a little deeper into some of the wordplay. There's a beautiful rhythm in your poetry. And I'm catching, the pre-created thesis and the puzzle pieces. And so so dig a little deeper into some of the word choices that you made.
I learned how to be a rapper before I ever learned how to be a poet. And so rhyming was like my main focus at one point, was trying to figure out how to do like complex rhyme schemes or just anything that wasn't your ordinary hickory dickory dock type.
Right.
Rhyming. Like, not that there's anything wrong with doing that. It's just for me, like, I wanted to do more. I wanted to figure out, like, is this the only way I can rhyme that's effective, or are there other things that I can do to like help with it? And I know with rhyming, a lot of the earlier poetry is metered, and that you have the rhymes there for the sake of like rhythm and cadence. And so I took like part of that and then the experience from like writing raps and just tried to fuse them into my poetry too. And so you get these random rhyme schemes, and I don't even do them on purpose most of the time. It's just like what's going on in my head and I'm trying to get it out. And, it's like pre-created thesis and blah, 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 blah. And like, oh, that, it's kind of like putting together puzzle pieces. Like a thesis is, something that's going to have layer to it. It's just, the foreshadowing, but then there's layers to why that's being foreshadowed and what's to come after it.
I get that. I get that. So as a dad / as a father who either reads this poem or hears this poem, you performed it and they experience the poem, what is the main thing that you want them to leave with it? What do you want them to get from hearing this poem?
That it is understandable what you're going through, and it's difficult, but I think the purpose of me writing this poem is also to show that there are effective and healthy ways to express that and start making changes, at least whatever we can control, because obviously there's some things we just don't have control over. And but we do have quite a bit of control over our own individual lives. So like, just know that like it's not going to help you to suffer in silence. So if there are things going on, like find a way to be able to express that. It doesn't even have to be poetry or even poetry that you share, because a lot of people write in journals and stuff all the time and never share it with anybody. Perfectly fine. But I just want the fathers to know, especially the single fathers, because I feel like that's something that is very, very much so overlooked. Single mother, oh my God, she's amazing. She's a superhero. She's a goddess. And single dad, oh, that's what he's supposed to do. Got it. Okay. So yeah. Those are, and that's not everybody's impression. That's the general impression though. And so I want those guys to know that like, yo, we have choices. We have choices, and we have the opportunity to not only better ourselves, but to also set this example for our children. I'm raising 3 young boys. So whatever happens with them is going to be, to an extent, a product of what I'm putting out into the world. And so I want to make sure that we have more good men coming into the world than not. So raising them to be open and stuff like that, and encouraging other fathers to, hey, be vulnerable with your kids, be honest with them, because that's what the real world looks like. Like, we don't need to sugarcoat it, because they're going to be in it for a rude awakening.
That is true.
Once they get out there, and they may end up like us, suppressing all of these feelings and stuff. So,
and not knowing how to express and feel the full spectrum of emotion in a healthy way.
In a healthy way, because there's ways to express.
Always. Yeah, it's going to come out. It's going to come out in some way.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we do need to be taught in our youth how to face all of the emotions that life is going to bring our way. Because, yeah, that's important. There's a part of your poem that I would like for you to dig a bit deeper into. And it says, but these problems go past me being a parent. They stretch past the borders of professionalism. They plague every talent I possess. So if I don't perform well or have slip-ups, I'm looked down upon. They never see the stress that fills my face, because once upon a taste, we were all the same flavor. Dig a little deeper into that.
Yeah. So I will throw the next line in there.
Okay.
Where it says, we all started at the bottom level. So that's what I meant by once upon a taste, we were on the same flavor. So we all start out, and that's just in general, like we're all youth, at some point where we don't really have anything started in the real world. So we're all somewhat on the same level. We're all at the bottom, obviously. And then it goes on to say some may be more privileged than others. But more of what I was speaking on is going beyond professionalism, as in it seems like every aspect of life, as a man, as a father, you're expected to be like beyond perfect almost, and it's hard to uphold that in every aspect of your life, because like I have to be top notch for my kids. I have to be top notch at work. I have to be top notch, in anything that I take outside of work, my habits, my poetry, whatever I decide to do outside of my work and my kids. Like there's a certain standard that needs to be, or it feels like we feel the pressure of there's another standard that we have to maintain. And this is what makes it really difficult for a lot of, single dads, men to express their feelings. And so you never really see it because we don't always feel like we can open up and share that, because we feel like if I slip, and that's what we look at as, if I slip, I'm going to be criticized more than I'm going to see hands trying to help me up. It's going to be more of, be a man, get up yourself, And so it's difficult. And so you run into this, and now you got to deal with that on top of everything else,
And our men need that. As I'm listening to you talk, I think about, as females, and of course I'm speaking in generalities, this isn't for all females, but as females, we have sister friends that we can call on and vent. Yes, we can call on our tribe. We can go to our parents and cry to our moms and cry to our dads and our grandparents. We have, we can go to our pastors and, and things of that nature. But when you think of men, it's like, okay, who do they go to? They don't go to their boys talking about, man, what about, and they
that's
should
set
have.
Up in childhood, though.
Yeah.
I always tell people it's a perfect example. You take a little girl, maybe 2 years old, so they're walking around. Take a little boy that's 2 years old. Little boy trips and fall. I'll rub some dirt in it. Get up, shake it off.
Yeah.
Little girl fall. Oh, come here, baby.
That
Did
is
you
so
get
true.
a boo-boo? Let me kiss it, clean it up. And they get all the cuddles and hugs, and little man's over there like, what did I do wrong?
It's like,
was
suck
it
it up.
Left knee I was supposed to scan? Let me go try this again.
Right. It's like, suck it up. It's
Yeah,
like,
so
suck
you're
it up.
trying to figure out where that space is, but everybody's telling you to man up, poke your chest out, deal with it.
Exactly.
And so where is my safe space when that's all I've heard all my life? So of course I'm going to generalize and say I can't trust anybody, because it's the same thing with the fellas amongst ourselves. We don't know what to do with your emotions. Like, bro, stop crying. Like,
Right.
Go have a drink or something.
Right,
Chill
right,
out,
right.
And that's where the, unhealthy habits come, or the working out, which, doing too much of that is bad for your heart,
True.
And so we're not finding the most effective ways because we don't know where to go. We don't know where to start. And most of us don't have the energy or the basis to know it's easy as just researching or calling your doctor and say, hey, I'm having a tough time with this. What do you think?
Right. So how did you find your way?
Oh, that's I guess I got lost a lot of times, so there's a lot of answers.
That's part of the journey. That's part of the journey.
No, yeah, it is.
It's part of the journey.
So for me, it was I guess the first time around after and this was probably when I was a teenager, and I was like really suicidal and self-harming at the time, and after not being able to finish the job per se, I just realized like I have to do it all myself. Like maybe there'll be people to help, but for the most part I have to bring myself out of this because nothing's helping, and the advice that people would give me, and I'm just like, are you listening to what you're telling me right now? Because that's probably going to drive me deeper than where I am at this moment. And so, a combination of that, and then kind of re-entering my faith in God, and just kind of getting deeper into that, and starting to kind of change the people I was around. That was another thing, is I started looking at them and I'm like, legit, if I go a month without texting these people, I won't hear from any of them. Why do I have them around if they're not actually around?
That's an eye-opener. That's an eye-opener to think about it that way.
It's a lesson.
So as far as your writing in your journey, how is that reflected in your writing and your relationship with your writing?
I think I've had so many experiences that I just don't really run out of stuff to write. Like, there's just so much to cover. And then just in general, like, I believe part of my purpose here in this world is to help people and to impact their lives and hopefully even maybe change for the better, you know? And so the best way I could do that is to recall from the experiences that I've had, the emotions that I felt, that like I knew I wasn't alone in them. Like, people didn't have to tell me that. They did all the time. Oh, you're not the only one that goes through it. I'm like, don't generalize people's pain and experiences. Don't ever do that, because that is completely dismissive. Yes, we know everybody, like other people go through it, but we don't have to deal with what they're going through firsthand. We have to deal with what we're going through. So let's focus here and deal with that, you know?
That is so good.
Yeah.
That is so good. Are there any other parts of your poem that you would like to expound upon for us?
There was one line.
There's always that one line.
There was one line. There's a line that, since we kind of touched up on it, it says it's easy to be deceived by your purpose if you only see what you want to. And with that one, it's just like, for me, like, I really always preach to people is like, don't ever stop learning and obtaining knowledge. Like, you can't do anything but better yourself or put yourself into conversations that, you know, you didn't belong in before, but now, you know, you're touched up on the subject matter. But really just like figuring out like what your purpose is, and what your purpose is something that you love doing, that you can do with, you know, minimal effort, that you'll always want to do. And it's self-rewarding. You don't need thanks. I don't need you to gift me with anything. I want to do this for you because you're going to live a better quality life. And so if I'm already living a good quality, why not share? I don't want to be up here by myself. That's a terrible party with just me. I don't even dance like that. So so it's always nice to like be able to share that, because that helps not only you fulfill your purpose, but that could be motivation and encouragement for somebody else to fulfill theirs. And that's so like, you know, just broaden that view a little bit, you know?
Why do you write?
Because it's a part of my purpose. It's how I speak. I'm not, you know, if you know me, I can be very talkative. If you don't know me, I can be extremely quiet to the point where you forget that I'm around, because I'm just observing. I'm just watching. I'm just looking. And so I don't speak, you know, often in crowds or with people unless I have something to say. And being that way for most of my life, where like you had to think a good portion of my life, I didn't have poetry. So everything I was feeling and thinking, I kept it to myself. I didn't feel like people wanted to hear it. And I didn't know what I would be expressing it for in the first place. Like, what are you going to do for me that's going to be helpful? Like, you don't even know me. And you're not even going to get the opportunity to know me, because I don't want to be around y'all people.
Okay. Okay.
So I write because I feel like those shouldn't be kept to myself. Because if we're going to generalize anywhere, that's where, in knowing that other people are going through it, and we can possibly change that.
So how can people connect with you and follow you?
They can't.
Oh.
No, I'm just kidding. Stop following.
Stop
no, I'm just
following
kidding. So I'm most active on Instagram at @deepthought_the lyricist. And honestly, I'll just point you there, because if you go there, I have a link tree, which is also Deep Thought the Lyricist. And once you click on that, it gives you access to everything I have going on. It gives you all my social medias. It gives you any events, features that I'm doing, workshops that I'm doing. If you guys like to randomly give thousands of dollars away, my Cash App, my Venmo, my PayPal. No, I'm just kidding. But so yeah, but I'm on Facebook, Deep Thought the Lyricist, TikTok, Deep Thought the Lyricist. And yeah, just track me down through one of those. Deep Thought. Oh, I'd have to double check my email. I think it's deepthoughlyricist@gmail.com. If you want to do any booking or anything, but yeah. Otherwise, I'm not telling y'all how to follow me.
You've been amazing, and we thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thanks for having me.
So thanks to Arsenio for that discussion and for sharing his poem, Superman, with us. The inspired topic from his poem is Reconciling Expectations from the perspective of Black fathers. Now, of course, everyone's experience is a unique one. So this discussion is not at all meant to speak to all situations. However, we will be discussing some real situations that Black fathers may face, and we will be getting some guidance on how to address and how to cope when certain situations arise. And we just may be surprised of the commonalities between the experiences of all fathers, all parents, all people, and some tools that we can put in our arsenal to help ground us when challenging situations arise. So as we prepare to shift from discussing poetry to discussing people, we're going to be joined by a mental health advocate. And it is important to note that the information shared is not intended to replace therapy. You are encouraged to consult with your own healthcare provider or mental health professional regarding any specific questions or concerns that you have regarding your health and your own well-being. This is a conversation, and we are having it in hopes of normalizing discussions like this with our friends and with our families and throughout the community and beyond. So, with that being said, stay tuned as we prepare to hear from mindfulness advocate Anthony Wiley Jr. Born and raised in Chattanooga, Tennessee, Anthony Maurice Wiley Jr. grew up in some of the city's toughest neighborhoods. Despite the challenges, he never let go of his imagination or his determination to create a better life. Anthony wears many hats. He's a music producer, equity trainer, meditation teacher, activist, educator, and community organizer with over 10 years of experience. He's also a proud Navy veteran. Today, Anthony is making an impact as the project director for the Senior Community Service Employment Program at the Urban League of Greater Chattanooga. Faith plays a big role in Anthony's life. As a follower of the Way, he serves as the minister of music at Westside Missionary Baptist Church. At home, he's a husband to his amazing wife, Gabby, and a proud father to their 3 daughters, Hassie, who's 11, Miranda, who's 8, and Asha, who's just 5 months old. When Anthony isn't working, you can find him immersed in his passions. He's an avid reader of self-help books, a musician with tracks available under the name Professor X, and a writer who shares his reflections on his blog, welcometotoday's.org. And when he needs to recharge, you'll likely find him meditating or spending quality time with his family. Anthony is also a student, on track to graduate with a bachelor's degree in applied psychology in 2025. He's excited to use his education to deepen his impact in the community, combining creativity, compassion, and a commitment to making a difference. Join me in welcoming our guest, Anthony Wiley Jr. So, Anthony, welcome to One Rhyme at a Time. I am so glad to have you with us and to be able to have this conversation about reconciling expectations.
Thank you. We're finally here. I know it's been in the making for several months, so I appreciate your patience and welcoming me here and providing an opportunity for me to share.
We're going to be talking about reconciling expectations primarily from the perspective of the Black father.
Okay.
And I understand that you have a recent addition to your family.
I sure do. She was born June 19th of this year. I also have an 11-year-old and an 8-year-old, so I can definitely speak to the experience of a Black father. I got a couple of trips around the block.
I love it. I love it. Congratulations to you and to your family. I love it. So we're going to start our conversation off with getting an understanding of mindfulness and not mindful, Full, but one word, mindfulness. What does that mean?
I appreciate the distinction there. Mindfulness is simply being present in the moment with no judgment. So being able to accept what's happening in the moment without attaching any negative experience or positive experience, just accepting what is as it is.
That's a great definition. And as I'm listening to you, I'm realizing that that's not an easy thing to do. Like we are constantly forming opinions of things as things are happening. So tell us a little bit more about like how do you even accomplish mindfulness?
It's hard, as you said. It's simple. It's a simple practice, but it's very hard to accomplish because of all the access that we have to social media, to so many other things, books, music, podcasts. There's so much that inundates our world and our atmosphere, in our spirit, and our mind. So sometimes our opinions aren't even ourselves. So we have to sit and sift through what's ours, what was given to us. And then once you get past that layer, then you have to get through the challenge of how to control your impulses, how to silence the mind, how to accept that the mind is constantly chattering. How can I sit through the discomfort of being still? Because in the West, we prioritize productivity, we prioritize being busy, we prioritize getting more and doing more. But in the East, and I found through my practice and even in my walk with Christ, slowing down, being still is really how we connect with ourselves, connect with the divine, and connect with each other. So you just got to do it. Sit down, be still.
Okay, yeah, because here that's lazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's lazy. You're wasting time if you're just sitting
and doing nothing. But you know what? I told my daughter one time, I said, you need to sit down and be still. And so she sat down and then she said, what am I supposed to do? I said, do nothing. You know what she said to me? But doing nothing is doing something. I said, exactly. Exactly.
Out of the mouths of our babes. Out of the mouths of our babes.
Yep.
So how can Black fathers specifically, because that's really who we're targeting and the perspective that you're able to speak from. How can Black fathers maintain their sense of self when they are feeling overwhelmed and when they're feeling overwhelmed by competing expectations from children, from partners, and then there's even expectations that society puts on? How do you maintain your sense of self even in the midst of all of that?
It's been challenging. It has been challenging. Wanting to live up to social expectations, the expectations that we carry into different spaces. Of course, you know, as men, we want to protect, we want to provide, we want to show up for our family, we want to be strong, capable, dependable fathers. And sometimes we just ain't got that to give. And that's okay. And that's okay. And when priorities start to compete, the first thing I like to do now is which priorities align with, one, my capacity, but also my values. So if it's not something that needs to be done in the moment, if it's not something that is going to jeopardize my family's safety or security, I'm okay with letting it fall by the wayside and picking it back up when I come back around. You said something about sense of self.
Yes.
Isolation. You need time to yourself. Self-care. What are some things that you enjoy?
And isolation does not mean
I'm pushing people away.
right.
It doesn't mean I'm pushing people away. I'm not showing up. Isolation just means I'm taking a retreat. I'm taking a retreat, whether that's an hour to go get your feet rubbed, whether it's 10 minutes to go meditate sometimes. Sometimes it means going to the bathroom and sitting on the toilet.
Yeah.
It just whatever time you can take to get with yourself, check in with yourself and say, what do I need in this moment? Because sometimes we get enamored with the needs of our families, especially when we have growing families, and then we have parents that need us. Our job needs us to show up. Different commitments, they need us. I need myself too. So how do I show up for myself?
And that's not time spent scrolling.
No, it's not.
Unplug.
And it's hard because sometimes we need that dopamine hit. It's easy to just sit and scroll. But like you said, unplug, turn the TV off. Don't pick up a book. Don't pick up a phone, because we can distract ourselves with seemingly healthy things too. Maybe you need to journal. Maybe you just need to sit and really do nothing to process what you've been feeling, how you've been showing up in different moments, what emotions are underlying some of your behaviors.
Yeah. So you mentioned journaling, and you also mentioned, like, you're into music. You're a musician as well.
Yeah.
So how has writing and artistic expression, how have those things helped you in processing your emotions and navigating challenges?
I love art, and I love being able to write to articulate my thoughts as well as make sense of them, because sometimes like I said earlier, the thoughts that we have are not necessarily our thoughts. And then sometimes the thoughts that we have aren't rational. They're emotional, they're not logical. So writing allows you to slow down, organize your thoughts, and choose, okay, which thoughts are being created through my trauma, through the lens of trauma, and which thoughts are leading me to my transformed self. And then with art, you get to alchemize your pain and turn it into power and purpose and transmute it and help other people. So when I'm producing, I think of the melodies of what are my emotions, what emotions have gotten me to this point. My whole first album that I released, I call it trash now because I've learned a little bit more about producing, but it was an album that symbolized the journey of me going to therapy, meditating, accepting some of the horrible decisions that I made in my first marriage, and turning back to love. And so that I think music or art in general is just a great outlet to express not only yourself but also your journey and the things that you transmute.
I totally agree with you. I am a writer, a poet,
A good writer and
and
poet.
I appreciate that.
My wife is still talking herself back to happy.
She's talking herself back to there's power in talking yourself back to happy. And I believe strongly in just the power of artistic expression, and be it writing poetry, writing just journaling and just paragraphs. There's something powerful about taking this whirl of chaotic thoughts and organizing it into something concrete. Whether you ever share it with anyone or not, there is just something powerful and spiritual that happens when you're able to go through that process of getting some of that out.
Immediately when you said taking the chaos and organize it and creating, I thought about symbolism, and then I also went back to creation. When we're creating something through an act of love or through an act of expression, we're tapping into our divine nature. We serve a creator. God is a creator. So when we're creating, we're participating in a process that God initiated since the beginning of time.
Beginning of time.
And then when we say, I'm tapping into the flow, but that means that everything else is just feels like it's passing away, and I'm in tune with this moment. I'm connected with my breath. All of this is mindfulness and meditation in the original way, if I can say that.
It all comes and works together.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It does. Oh, okay. So I'm gonna go back to, it's like I have so many questions, but I'm like, okay, let me honor the listeners. So what advice do you have for when one feels pressured to appear strong and emotionless?
Mm-hmm. If you're in a space where someone is expecting you to always appear strong and emotionless, get out. Because they're asking you to show up as an automaton, someone that's not human. In order for a man to be a decent man, he has to be human. He has to be in touch with his emotions and be willing to experience the full gamut of emotions, not just anger, not just pleasure, but also sadness, disappointment, frustration, being afraid. You have to allow your man, or create a space where your man feels comfortable with feeling emotions. We're human.
That's true.
Let me be. Let me lay on you and cry.
There you go. Okay, so that takes me to and I have some really strong feelings about this, because and this is actually in the poem that you mentioned about talking yourself back to happy. Women play a role in this, in the mental health of our men.
Yeah.
And we cannot tear our men down and then expect them to be strong for us. I mean, like, they have needs, and they have weaknesses, and they have vulnerabilities. And we as women, we need to be a safe space for our man. So spend a little bit of time and talk to the women.
Oh, I'm gonna try not to get in trouble.
Yeah, say the things that the man wishes he could say.
Well, I'm going to say it from the perspective of a father, because I am raising 3 girls who will grow up to be Black women.
Okay.
What I have noticed is that sometimes, and I think about the way I grew up as well, sometimes our women don't grow up in safe spaces. They grow up in environments where they have to be hard, where they're either being raised by a single mom, or in an environment where the men don't allow them to feel safe, so they become hard. And then we can go through the whole history of slavery and its impact on the Black family, gender issues. Black women are now the most educated, earning the most money. And so, there's that conflict with men thinking that they have to be the breadwinners at home. And now there's some conflict there. But in order for Black women to create spaces for men to be vulnerable and safe, they're going to have to go to therapy too. They're going to have to do the same. You want a man to be gentle with you. That man can't only be gentle when you want him to be gentle. He's going to have to learn to be gentle and soft in other areas of his life too. He's going to have to be okay with coming to you and expressing his vulnerabilities, his insecurities. And for me, that means showing my daughters that men cry. Sharing those things sharing my fears, my insecurities, my challenges with my daughters as well. Telling them things about my childhood. I try my best to be an open book with them. One day, my daughter was in the mirror and she was crying. She was talking about how stupid she was and how much of a bad child she was. So I took her in the bathroom. I looked at her. I said, "We're going to look in the mirror and I want you to repeat after me." And then I sat down on the toilet with her. I sat down on the toilet and she was standing in front of me and we started singing "Jesus Loves Me." And I got to the part where, "Yes, Jesus loves me." And I started crying. And she looked at me and she was like, "Daddy, you're crying." I said, "Yeah, because Jesus loves me. Even though I've messed up, even though I have all of these things, I want you to know that he loves you too. Like, you're not a bad child. You make bad decisions sometimes. I make bad decisions, but that doesn't make you bad." Then there was another time my daughter, 11-year-old, big attitude. She was having a rough day, just a rough day. And so I sat down and I asked her, "What's going on? You're not acting like yourself." And she said, "I don't know. I'm just angry." I said, sometimes you feel things. Sometimes you just wake up on the wrong side of the bed. You have these emotions that you really can't explain. And I have those days too. And I started crying. She wiped my tears and she just hugged me. So letting my girls know that it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay. Men cry. Like,
Right.
I'm human. I'm 6'3", 300 pounds, but I still have feelings and emotions. And with my wife, I let her know, like, there are things that I need. I need to be built up. I need to know that you support me. We always take it back to the word. The Bible tells men to love their wives. Why? Because men have this, we get so fixated on protecting and providing and going to work and bringing the bacon home so it can be cooked, that we forget to be intentional and gentle and soft with our wives. And it tells our wives to respect and honor your husband. Well, what does that mean? That means hold him in high esteem, honor him, talk to him like he is somebody.
Yeah. And that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the main things that I got from what you shared in your message to the women is the importance of them doing the self-work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In order to show up for others, we have to first show up for ourselves.
Yeah. And there's a fad called, what is it, soft life now, where women are wanting to live their soft life, and I completely support it. But living a soft life don't mean that you living a life where you ain't doing nothing. It means that you're still doing the grueling work of love. Like, 'cause love is work.
It is.
Love is brutal. It requires honesty. It requires a level that most people aren't willing to go to, and work that most people aren't willing to do. So if you want to live a soft life, you're going to have to do some hard work.
What do you see as unique mental health challenges that Black fathers face? And how can communities better support them?
Women often have circles and community where they can call up their homegirl and say, "Girl, guess what happened to me today?" Or, "You won't believe what this man did." My children, y'all call and y'all talk to each other. For men, we process it internally. We try to work it out on our own. I know for me, I don't talk to my friends as much as I used to because I've gotten busy. I have so many different responsibilities. I don't lean on my support, my community of brothers anymore. But that's one thing I would say. Call your friends, talk to your brothers,
Yeah.
because they going through it just like you going through it. And then the other challenge is learning how to unpack your past so that you can show up better in your present, and releasing the stigma that comes with going to therapy. Like, it's okay to go and talk to somebody. Your life ain't been peaches and cream. Some experiences have shaped how you show up in your relationships and in your families. And you need to talk to somebody about that. You need to talk to somebody about that.
Yeah. So when we think about the expectations that other people put on us, my mind immediately goes to like pressure.
Mm-hmm.
But all pressure isn't bad pressure.
My wife put pressure on me all the time. She will hold me accountable.
And that's a good thing. You
Yes.
want some people that are holding you accountable, that are challenging you to be a better person.
Right.
So what does that look like as far as being a person and you have some expectations that are coming at you, and differentiating between the good and the bad, that you should be deflecting and standing against, versus that you should be, taking in.
Yeah. Some expectations are healthy, and the healthy expectations are often communicated ahead of time. The unhealthy expectations are the uncommunicated or internalized expectations that we place on ourselves because of society, or we're just assuming. It's important to have conversations with whoever you're in community with. I think about conversations that me and my wife have. When I'm not living up to her expectations, she lets me know I've dropped the ball. And it is hard to hear that you've dropped the ball. You haven't done your best. It is hard to hear. And instead of getting defensive, I sit with it and I say, you know what? You're right, baby. I did. I'll do better next time. Now, sometimes it ain't that easy.
Right.
Sometimes I don't arrive at that response. Sometimes I like to make excuses, or I'll say, well, this came up. This is why that happened. And then she'll be like, and then it'll start something. It'll start something where we say paper cut. Now we've given each other a paper cut and we have to tend to that. But it's important to have people around you that can see your blind spots, because we all have blind spots, and who can encourage you to be your best self and not sugarcoat things with you. Like me and my wife, sometimes we're brutally honest with each other, but it's because we love each other and we are committed to seeing each other grow spiritually and in life. So she'll let me know. And sometimes my girls will let me know when I've not lived up to their expectations too.
And that's important, to even be willing to take that from your children as well.
Yeah.
And that doesn't make,
because I let them know.
Yeah.
I let them know.
Yeah. And that doesn't make you less of a man.
It doesn't make me any less of a good man. It doesn't make me any less of a good father or husband. It just means that in this moment, I didn't show up. My behavior wasn't consistent with my intentions and my value. Employers do it all the time. It's called professional. What is it called? Where you get your constructive feedback and the evaluation. Your profession. Your employers do it all the time. So
they do.
Yeah, it's important for families,
assessments,
spouses to do it.
Yeah. So how can people connect with you?
They can connect with me on Facebook, Anthony M. Wiley, or on Instagram under Professor X, or email anthony.m.wiley@outlook.com.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much for your time. This has been an amazing conversation. I could talk to you for another hour or two. I'm going to bring you back. Okay. I'm going to bring you back. Thank you so very much for your time.
Thank you for that.
As we conclude another insightful episode of One Rhyme at a Time, I want to thank our featured poet, Arsenio Sorrell, also known as Deep Thought the Lyricist, our guest, mental health advocate, Anthony Wiley Jr., our audience, and of course, you, our listeners, for joining us in this conversation. And we would like to hear from you. What are some expectations that others are measuring you by? What do you say in those moments? How do you cope? And what is it that you do to allow yourself to return back to calm? Tell us in an original poem that you've written in response to this podcast. Submit your poem to RNCPoetry@gmail.com for the chance to have your poem read on an upcoming episode. Mindfulness is a powerful tool, allowing us to be present in the moment without casting judgment. It is a tool worth having and a skill worth building. The creation and consumption of poetry can also help us organize our thoughts and better deal with our emotions. It is our hope that our discussions on poetry and its healing aspects inspire you to write more, to read more, and to seek out opportunities to immerse yourself in creative processes. Until next time, this is the Poetic Diva. May your days be filled with inspiration, healing, and poetry, one rhyme at a time. Thanks for joining us. You can find this and other episodes of One Rhyme at a Time on the RNCPoetry channel on YouTube, on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, and other podcast platforms. Also, be sure to listen for us on Chattanooga's NPR station, WUTC 88.1 FM, as part of their continuing programming. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, share, and leave comments for us on your preferred podcast platform. Your feedback helps us continue to bring meaningful content, one rhyme at a time.